Hi all. Today we are starting our Angular tutorial series with lesson 5. This lesson we are going to discuss about Angular services. Angular services. Why service? Components shouldn't fetch or save data directly. They should focus to presenting data and delegate data access to services. And services are the great way to share information among classes that don't know each other. What this means? When you see our source code, so far we are implementing some application, and in that application our app component is holding some data here, item list. In the real world, this item list should came from some backend servers or REST API or something. So that kind of data retrieving thing should handle using services. And also there's a array for cart. When user click buy item, we are pushing items to that cart array. This cart should be accessible by any other components in my application. That is my business purpose. So that cart also can handle using the service. In the second point of this slide is describing about that. Services are great to share information about classes that don't know each other. So if I handle this cart array with a service, any component can directly discuss or access the services and get that cart details. Okay, how to create a service? As we discussed earlier, when we create in component directives and things, we discuss how to generate them using command line and also by manually. So here is the code to generate new service with Angular CLI. Let's go to our code. Before generating a new service, I would like to have another folder. Let's say services. Inside that folder, I'm going to create my first service, which is item service. I navigate to that service folder, and here I'm going to create my Angular service. Command is ng generate service. This is the short form as we discussed earlier. Ng generate for G for generate and S for services. Ng generate service, which is my item service, and you may Angular CLI will create the service for you. Okay, now you can see the service file is created and also the spec file for testing purposes, unit testing. Now my service is created. If you create manually you have to do these things: import this injectable from core modules and injectable decorator and the class to our service. Okay, now we have created our first service here. Then what is this injectable means? Let's see. This injectable marks the class as the one that participate in dependency injection system. Since services are delegated to data handling and things, the Angular components need to get integrated with these services. So that integration is happening using dependency injection. So do a dependency injection, Angular dependency injection system need to know that there is a service to do which particular thing. So this injectable decorator do is make sure knowing that dependency injection system that there's a service. Okay. And after when we using this particular service, we have to set this class in our providers array. If we are using it globally, we have to add it to our global providers array in app module. So I will add it here. What these providers do? A provider is something that can create or deliver a service. In this case, the it instantiates the service class to provide the service. If you specify the service class as a provider token, the default behavior is for the injector to initiate the class with new keyword. What it means is when we add this item service provider token to providers array, what happens is this Angular framework will create an instance for this item service. Normally, services are singleton classes. Okay. Now I am going to show you how to use this our item service. And dependency injection, when Angular create a component, the dependency injection system set the service parameter to singleton instance of service. Let's see how we can do it. Now what I want to do is I want to this item service cater my item list to app component. So before all, I have to create my data set in my item service. So I'm going to get those data from that service. So I go to app component.ts, access this. You can see there is a item list. I will copy this item list. To our item service. Okay. Now my item list is in item service. I will write a function to retrieve this item list. So get item list. What I am going to return is item array and return this dot item list. Okay, but this can't find name item, so I have to import the object. Always try to write TypeScript code with types that will help you to deal with the code more often. So my service is ready. Now when I inject this item service to any of my component, I can call get item list function and get these items to that component. So now my code shouldn't work because now there is no item list available in my app component. First I have to do is we have to inject our service using dependency injection pattern and get that item list to our app component. So first thing first I will inject item service to my app component. How to do it is private define in the parameter item service type item service. Now it's dependency injection part is completed now. Now we can access this item service in any method of this app component. So I will write core function here, get items. How to get is this dot item service dot get item list. This get item list is written in item array, so I can assign those item written in item array to my local variable item list, and this dot item list equals item service dot get item list. Okay, now to execute this line you have to call this function get items. We can, yeah, here's the important thing. We know constructor runs when a component is executing. So we can call this get items function, no problem. At this stage actually it's work. We can call the get items function in constructor, but important thing is it is not recommended by Angular. What Angular states is reserve the constructor for minimal initialization, such as wiring constructor parameters to properties. The constructor shouldn't do anything. It certainly shouldn't call a function that make HTTP request to remote server as a real data service would. Yeah. When we go to our code, this item service get item list function is only written in the locally defined and assigned variable to our component. But in real scenario, this function will return data which came from a HTTP request. So it is not a good practice to call these type of functions from constructor. So what can we do? Yeah, when we discuss about our lifecycle hooks, we talked about ng on init functionality. We can implement on init. After the constructor runs, on init function executes. So ng on init function execute. In that ng on init function, we can call this get item function. Okay, that is the best way to do this. Now you can see in my application work properly as I expected. Now return to the our source code. For that, now how do we use service as summary? We created the item service and we add that item service to our providers list in app component, and since we want to get details to app component, we inject item service to our app component and call item service get item list function to retrieve data to my component. Okay, now I'm going to create another service. This is I'm going to create manually. Let's see how we can create this service again. For that service I created for purpose of my keeping my cart details it as a cart service. So I'll create a file called cart.service.ts. Yeah, important. There are also a important thing that when the Angular creating files in service file, you can see there's a postfix with the service. In components, we get it as component, and services, we get it as service. So here we have to do is import injectable from our Angular core module and decorator injectable to say our Angular dependency injection services to this is a injectable service provided in prod and export our class cart service. Okay, I have created my cart service. Each cart service contains cart for particular customer. So I create my cart list, cart item list, which is item array, and initially it's a empty array. And for this array, I want to return it, get cart, which is returning item array, and return cart item list. Okay, and I wanted to add items to cart in this service. Add item. What I'll do is I pass one item to this list and add it to my cart. Okay, now you will see there is a problem. If I added 2 chocolate ice cream, I click 2 times this ice cream button, it has a 2 item but with not quantity. If we can add the cart item with quantity, it would be better. So I change it from here. First, data model. My data model is not containing any value with quantity. It's only available count. So I'll create another interface for cart item. I created cart item TS and creating another class interface for my cart item by extending our item interface. So almost all object we use properties use in item we use in cart items, rather than additionally what we use is quantity. It's a number. Okay, now I'm going to use this cart item in my cart service. Cart item list will contain cart items, and when it get item, it push item. Now what the problem says, the argument of type item is not assignable to parameter type cart item. the property quantity is missing in item. So that means you have to create a, okay, now we have to do is a object mapping here, since cart item list is containing cart items and our incoming object is item type object. So I am going to create a temporary cart item object to and copy that item properties to that object. Okay, let's see. I'll define in that new object, let's say temp cart item, and what I'm going to do is add uh, clone this item object to new object with the property quantity. So we can do it by using object.assign. Object.assign, since there is no sub object, we can use this object.assign functionality. And here my initial object is contain quantity plus one quantity is coming from this item, since I put it as 1, and I'm going to clone object. I'll put the my type as cart item. Now I'm going to object clone from item. Now you can see I have an object with type cart item, and I will assign it here. Okay, if I put here empty object, what would happen? The same error will happen because uh, they are also missing the quantity property. Okay, now even our logic is not correct because we are adding new objects there rather than increasing the quantity of existing if there's existing object. So for that we have to check with some value, with label or some id with that added item is in list or not. So what I wanted is now to compare those things. Comparing label is not a good thing in such cases. So id would be a better way to check. In that case, I'm going to add a id to my object. So I am showing you that defining these interfaces as types is more important in our application development with TypeScript, so we can easily use error handling and things. So now you can see that compile time is return error that id is missing. So I'm going to add id to my item service. uh, id as 1. It make me comfortable when doing it types these things. Okay, now I have added types to my objects, and still there's error. What is in item service 44, line 44, it written in item list. Okay, now it says that type property id is incompatible. That's since my item is a string, so I'll set it as a number anyway. Okay, now it's compiled successfully. My app is working fine. You can see app is there, no change in screen. Everything works fine. no errors in console, and I will move to my source code, and now I can compare these items by checking the ID when adding the to cart service. So I'm again going to cart service, and before adding cart item to cart item list, I will check whether there is a already added cart item with same ID, and if so, I will increase the quantity value by 1, or otherwise push a new value to here. So what I am going to do is now to check whether there is a existing item in cart item list. For that, I will find uh, in array. So already added item is there. We can find it using this iterate through this cart item list. Find method is to find items if there is a value. This is normally JavaScript function with a callback. Okay. And this value is cart item type, and then I get the index, the number, if value dot id equals uh, id. Okay, now it's returning value id equals item dot id, means that both are same type items. This will return that value to already added item. So already added item also a type cart item, and if already added item is available, what we can do is increase this already added items quantity by 1. Okay, and else we have to add this temp item. So we can get it here. Okay, that's fine. Now we can we have function to add items to our cart and get item from cart. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I want to call this cart service from my app component. To do that, again the dependency injection, how we can do is simply inject this cart service to my app component. In my app component, rather than pushing items to this simple array in my cart component, I want to add this item to my cart service cart. Add item, item. Okay. If you want to console it here, you can access it from cart service. Cart service plus get cart. Okay. Now you can see if I click buy, part is printed. This quantity 1 increases quantity again. So now this is the second example of our services, and this explains how we can share data between two components. In Angular services, we discussed that services are a great way to share information among classes that don't know each other. So you can understand this code as we access this card service data from app component. If there's another component called card component, we can access those details from card component from card service. That's how services are working. Now we are almost cover our service examples and about Angular services. After that, we will discuss about Angular pipes. Now we are going to talk about Angular pipes. So what is Angular pipe? Angular pipes used to transform strings, currency amounts, dates, and other data for display. Pipes are simple function you can use in template expressions to accept an input value and return a transformed value. For example, let's go to our testing application. In this application, I have added price to each item card. Each item card contains a price button. If you remember, when I add this price here, I have hard coded this RS for rupees. There I have hard coded it. But in using pipes, we can format these numbers and these currency symbols as we want. So that simply means, let's go to our source code and see what happens there. This in my item card. My item card, I have mentioned hard coded this currency symbol here, and there's a no symbol, it just show as the number we entered for price 100 and 300 like that. So what I want is to format this number as a currency. For that we can use, for that type of transformation we can use pipes. Okay, using pipes in template. Use pipe operator. The pipe operator within the template expression. You get the example here. The birthday is birthday, pipe operator, and date. Here date is one transformation pipe which find in the Angular default. Let's see some example with our price tag. Okay, now I'm going to add another field here with some offer tag. Okay. Rather than adding this low quantity, I will add one offer tag here, and for that I am going to change my item object with offer. So what I want is this each item should contain details about some offers. So for that I will create another model called offer. That type I will create a trace. there is a in to whether the offer is valid or not. String and date of and for now we will go like this. Each item will contain, for that I have to create my item also some change, add per item type property to object. I have to import this in, but this offer is a optional property of this object type. So you see now that if I added offer like that, since I wanted to set property for all my created object, I can make this optional one. Make some property optional, you have to do is add a question mark front of the variable name, property name. Compiled successfully. And this offer is some object may contain the offer, some object may not contain the offer. So my data service, item service, I will add some types with offer. Yeah. What are the properties in the valid for ends in date for this 20%. I'm going this my object is data objects are created for offers. I will change this view little bit to get that low quantity tag to label which is mentioned in whether there is a offer or not, and I will put offer details below the label. Let's see. Item card. I will set the tag to header. If item dot offer is available. Okay, now you can see that it's not low offer. Okay, now you can see that offer tag also available. Now I don't want this highlight attribute. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is add another tag to show my offer. I will display this offer if only offer available, so I can set structure directive ngif to show it. Item dot item dot offer is available only. This tag will show. What is it going to show is offer, and then it must show if only this offer is valid also. So I'm going to say valid. A description. Okay, let's see what will happen. Yeah, now if there is the offer, it shows me, and that offer ends on what is the date of offer ending is in offer ends it here. Now you can see uh, if there is offer description and offer ends on date displays here. Release. Okay, if there's offers, we can highlight this thing if you want using that our custom created attribute. Anyway, now what I want to is format this date using pipe. That is our main purpose in this tutorial. So I'm going to add my pipe with a date pipe. So what I have to do is add the pipe operator and mention it a date. It date. Okay. Now you can see that date string is changed. Valid till I have. You don't remember. I have previously chose this as a string I have entered in my data item dataset, which is as this with these hyphens and things with only numbers. But when I add my pipe, you can see data transforms to this format. Okay. Then also you can use any type of data formats. When we are talking about pipes, the next topic we are going to talk about is transforming data with parameters. In these examples, we are use parameters with pipes. For example, if you see in my screen, I have added a pipe called currency, and there's a colon, and you can see there is a quote EUR. Like that, we can give parameters by adding a colon symbol if the pipe is accepting that kind of parameters. Now let's move to our example source code. You can see I have added the date pipe here. Now I want to add some parameters. If you go through Angular documentation, you may see some kind of this parameters. So there is some parameters. For example, I will add it the format of date to short. When I add short as the format of the date, you can see my data value changed. For better viewing, I will split my view to source code and the screen. Now rather than sort, now I am going to add the date format as medium. Now see that data format is changing, but in here it getting default time value here. I don't want that time, so I change my parameter to medium date. Okay, now you can see that it's so June 30th of 2021, and also I can set it as loan date. Okay, now those kind of transforming can do using pipes with parameters. So how can we find those all values which are supported for particular pipes? Go to Angular documentation. In Angular, search about pipes. Transforming data using pipes. So there is they mentioned that there is some default uh, pipes which are defined in Angular framework. For example, I will go to date pipe as we discussed. So there they mentions that uh, our value expression and the pipe symbol, then the pipe name and the format that parameters accepted. So this is the format which parameters sequence, and I have added only one parameter, that means it's the format parameter. If you go down here, you can see that predefined format options which we have with examples. If we use full date, it shows full date as this. It shows, for example, it shows Monday, June 15th of 2015, likewise. So that's how we use Angular pipes with parameters. Let's move to our next topic, is the chaining pipes. Before going chaining pipes, I will do another example with transforming data with parameters. That's for in our example, if you remember, we have here the price tag. So there are also a currency pipe available in Angular defaultly. So I'm going to add that currency pipe there. So in my source code, the price, what I have to do is add the pipe symbol. Then my pipe name is currency. Save it and see what will happen. You can see now it shows as $400, but actually we are not dealing with dollars. So what I want to do is set this symbol to LKR. So you may have understood uh, how can we do such a thing with our knowledge we gather so far. There should be a way to pass my currency type here. That's for using using parameters as discussed. As here we have parameters with the symbol. The If you go to again our Angular documentation, I will show you. If you go to currency pipe, you can see that it has currency code, display, digit info, local, and so many parameters. So what I have to add is as first parameter currency code. So I'll add here first parameter as LKR. So let's see what happens. If you came to our application, you can see that LKR currency is showing there. Now we learn about parameters and also using uh, using pipes with parameters, and our next topic is nested pipes. How can we use pipes as chains? So here's example that chained birthday, and we have the two parameters, date parameters and uppercase parameter. If you have two pipes, the transformation is happening as a chain. First birthday transform to with date pipe, and then to uppercase transforming using uppercase pipe. So for example, let's go to our Angular application, and there's I have added that my offer description here. What I want is to set these things to uppercase. No, I'm going to change this value. The date should be with uppercase as the slide shows. So what I have to do is set this after this transformation. It set it to long date, and then I have to set it as uppercase also. Now save it. Let's see our Angular application. There's something here wrong. That uppercase could not be found. Most probably I do a typo here. Let's see. The pipe is name is in simple all. Okay. Now you can see that my second pipe also added here. So now we learned about how to use pipes and pipes with parameters and chain in pipes. Now we are going to talk about creating pipes manually. Okay, now we are going to create a custom pipe within our Angular application. What I am going to do is create a pipe to transform these available items. Is just showing the number, and I want to set it value as liter or milliliter or the unit of the value. So let's go to our source code. In here I'm going to define my pipes. So for that pipes, I will create new folder to create pipe, and in my new folder I can create a pipe using my command line interface. So just by manually uh, just do it with command prompt. Okay, inside my pipes I will run the command ng generate pipe. My pipe is unit symbol pipe. Okay, When defining the pipe name, it is required you to uh, set the class name with upper camel case and the uh, pipe name with camel case. So Angular will automatically create it for me. Okay, now pipe is created and that pipe also added to my declaration array also in my app module. Okay, now when I go to pipe, you can see there it imports pipe decorator from core modules and also pipe transform interface, and as we discussed that the class name should be upper camel case as I said, and it is that requirement is completed. Now what is happening here is this pipe decorator says Angular this is a pipe, and this pipe transform interface is the responsible class for perform the transformation. Uh, when pipe transformation interface is implement, we have to add the transform method. In the transform method, that there's two parameters. One is value and the second one is arguments. In the first parameter, value which is going to transform, and the second parameter which called argument is for the parameters we choose for this pipe transformation. When you see our pipe class, you can see that pipe decorator is added to this class that says this is a pipe. And also we have imported pipe transform interface. To implement this pipe transformation interface, we have to implement the transform method. The transform method getting two parameters, value and arguments. The value is the value which is going to transform on this pipe, and the second parameter arguments are the list of parameters which we are passing from our template. Okay, now what I want to do is at the symbol which is I am sending to here. So I'm going to show again my application item card. In this item card, let's see about our previously added currency pipe. My pipe type is currency and I pass the LKR as parameter, and that transformation, after transformation happens, result is we are getting LKR in front of the this number, and also it added decimal points also. In here what we are going to do is I just going to add the my unit symbol after this value. So let's go to our code again, and in my pipe what my value I am passing is type string or a number, both would be possible here. So, and for argument list I don't want it list because always I am going to add one argument. So here I use this argument as symbol, and it's also going to be a string. It's definitely a string, and then what I'm going to return is value as a string, and I added the symbol after that value. Okay, my pipe is ready now to work with, and I'm copying this, and let's apply this pipe to my units. So in my item card, uh, here is available items, and I'll add the pipe pipe symbol, then pipe name, and the argument as parameter as liters. So let's see what will happen. Now you can see my pipe is transforming my value here. So that's how we can create a pipe manually. Uh, you can see that there's a lot of functionalities we can do using these things. Okay. Uh, Now it is the end of the lesson 5, and we will continue our next lesson with how to handle Angular HTTP module and fetch data using HTTP calls and things. Let's meet in lesson 6. Thank you.